Okay, guys, so we're doing 6.6 honors and then 5.6 math 7. Okay, so what we're doing is we're solving two-step inequalities. Now, don't forget, inequalities mean lesser than, greater than. They could be lesser than or equal to, or greater than and equal to. So that's what we're doing. Okay, and it says, how does solving a two-step inequality compare with solving a two-step equation? Guys, really, it's the same. Okay, our biggest thing that we need to remember here is if we ever divide by a negative, you have to switch the sign of the inequality around, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is just like when we do an equation, we are going to isolate the variable, okay? So when I go to solve this, we've got $600 is less than or equal to $350 plus 8x. Now, over on the side of the inequality that has the variable, we want to isolate this variable. I'm going to separate these terms. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the term here that is not associated with the variable, okay? So in other words, I am going to subtract, since I'm adding 350, I'm going to subtract 350. Do the opposite. This ends up being 0. It gets rid of this. But remember, we cannot do one thing on one side of the inequality and not do it on the other. So that means I'm going to subtract 350 over here also, okay? Now, because we're subtracting, this does not change the inequality at all. It still stays the same, okay? So when I subtract this, I get $250 is less than or equal to 8x. Now, we are still isolating the variable, guys. So I still need to get this by itself. Because this is the only term left, now we're going to get rid of this 8. Now, don't forget, when an 8 is next to a variable, when any number is next to a variable, that's an operation of multiplication. We're going to do the opposite to get rid of it. In other words, we're dividing by 8 since we're multiplying by 8. Remember, anything divided by itself is 1. Okay, and 1 multiplied by x is simply x. So then we have the less than or equal to, but remember, I have to do it on the other side of the equation also. Now, when I divide this by 8, I get $31.25. Remember, we are dealing with money here, so when you see that decimal, remember that's the change between dollars and cents. So what they're saying here is x is going to be greater than or equal to $32.25. Okay, guys? So like I said, if you don't understand this fully, then make sure you ask questions in class. Now let's do another one. Let's do another example here. Okay, so this is from example 3. The last one from example 2. Same type of problem. 5 minus 1/2 x is greater than 30. I have this side of the equation with the variable, so I'm going to isolate this variable. This 1/2 is associated with the variable. I separate the terms, okay? Now, what you have to understand is this is a positive 5. Okay, so in order to get rid of this 5, we have to subtract 5 because we want it to equal 0. Because 0 minus a negative 1/2 x is still a negative 1/2 x. But remember, I have to subtract 5 over here also. So this is gone. All I have on this side then is a negative 1/2 x is greater than, and it's 25. Now this becomes a little bit more interesting, okay, guys? I still need to isolate the variable. I'm isolating x. Now don't forget, in order to get rid of negative 1/2 from the x, because this is multiplication here, I am going to multiply by the reciprocal. In other words, a negative 2 over 1. This is why the cross-canceling was so important when we were learning it in Unit 1. We want to be able to cross-cancel it so it ends up being 1. Because if we do, first of all, the negatives cancel each other out, right? Negative multiplied by negative is a positive. The 2's cancel each other out. Divided by 2 is 1. Divided by 2 is 1. And notice how all of a sudden, all I have left here, if I multiply straight across, is 1. and 1 multiplied by x is still x. This stays greater than, because we didn't divide, we multiplied. So if you really look at this, guys, what we're trying to do is make everything, when we balance the equation, we're trying to either make everything that is around the variable 0 or 1. 0 if we're adding and subtracting, 1 if we're multiplying and dividing. Now, remember, I can't do anything on one side of the equation without doing it on the other, so I'm going to multiply this by a -2. It was a -2 over 1 here so that we could cross cancel, but remember, a -2 over 1 is just -2. So all of a sudden, this becomes -50. A lot of students get this problem wrong because they want to multiply or divide by -1/2, okay? And they don't quite remember all the steps that need to be done. So do not forget this. And like I said, if you don't understand it, make sure you ask me questions when you come into class. Okay, let's do our last one. Now, this is Excel number 6. A lot of students had problems with this last year. I want to make sure I went over it. Okay, now what they're saying here is that the perimeter is less than 120. Okay, guys? And that they're telling us the length and the width, okay? Now, what you have to decipher here is that if this is x, then this is x. If this is x plus 4, then this is x plus 4. In order to find the perimeter, we have to add these all up together. Okay, so I'm going to add them all up. In other words, it would be x plus 4 plus x plus 4. See how that's both of these? I'll even put parentheses around them. That's those two, right? Plus x plus x. And then we use this right here. So this is the perimeter. This is going to be equal to the perimeter, and it needs to be less than 120. Now, before I can do anything here, I need to combine like terms. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need to go back and review some of the other lessons in Unit 5 or Unit 6. Okay, guys? So here's what I do. I'm going to rewrite it again. I did more steps than I needed to. I'm going to take the parentheses out of it. X plus 4 plus x plus 4 plus x is less than 120. Now I'm going to separate the terms. I've got an x, I've got a positive 4, I've got a positive x, I've got a positive 4, I've got a positive x, and I've got a positive x. Well, these x's can all be combined, and then these 4's can be combined. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's, that's 4 x's, right, plus 8 is less than 120. Okay, now we're doing the same type of problem that we had over on the other ones. In other words, I need to isolate the variable. This plus 8 is not associated with this term, so I'm going to subtract 8 here to get rid of it. That means I have to subtract 8 here. This is gone, and we have 4x is less than 112. Okay? I'm going to go over here. I'm going to erase a little bit. Okay, so if you need to, take a picture of this just so I can move this up a little bit more. I'm erasing this, give myself a little bit more room. I'm going to write this up here because here's where we're at. 4x is less than, sorry, I put less than twice. 4x is less than 112. Now, at this point, I'm still getting x by itself, so I'm going to divide by 4. Because this is multiplication, we do the opposite, divide by 4. But I'm going to have to divide by 4 over here, too. And that means x is less than 28. So that means these are simply less than 28, right? This can be any number that's less than 28, but then we're going to add 4 back on for each width. Okay, guys? So these problems are pretty tough. I'm not going to kid you, all right? That means you need to ask me questions on anything you don't understand. Make sure you study these. Check to help me solve this, okay, if you're having problems with it when you're at home, and then ask me questions when you're here in class. All right, so good luck, guys.